The confirmation came in at 4:12 p.m., right when I was closing my laptop. Reservation confirmed. Table for 2, 7:30 p.m., Lumiere, downtown. For a moment, I assumed it was a spam email, the kind that pretends to know you to get you to click. But the details were too specific. My name was correct. My phone number was correct. Even the note at the bottom was correct. Anniversary. Please seat us by the window. Our anniversary, 18 years, and I hadn't made the reservation. My wife, Tessa, hadn't mentioned it either, not even a hint, not even a "don't make plans," which meant one of two things. Either she was planning a surprise, or I was about to walk into something I wasn't supposed to see. I stared at the screen until the words stopped looking like letters and started looking like a warning. Then I did what I always do when my life feels like it's slipping sideways. I checked the facts. I opened the restaurant's website and confirmed the time. I checked my credit card notifications to see if a deposit had been charged. Nothing. I looked at the sender email. Legitimate domain, not a fake. Then I noticed something else. The reservation confirmation was sent to my email, not hers. That detail didn't fit a surprise. A surprise doesn't arrive in your own inbox. A setup does. My name is Daniel Mercer. Most people call me Dan. I'm 57 years old, born in Ohio, living in the suburbs of Chicago now because careers and kids and mortgage rates pushed life in that direction. I manage facilities for a chain of medical offices, plumbing, HVAC, compliance inspections, vendor contracts. I spend my days making sure systems work so people don't think about them. My marriage had become the kind of system you only notice when it fails. Tessa and I had a son, Caleb, 16, tall, quiet, smarter than he let on. We also had a daughter, Molly, 12, loud, opinionated, hilarious. Kids you'd fight to keep safe even when you're falling apart, which is why I didn't text Tessa immediately with the obvious question. Did you book this? I didn't want to start a fire in the middle of the house. So I kept my voice inside my head and made a decision. I would go. Not to confront, not to catch her with a gotcha moment that would become a story she told everyone. I would go to understand what kind of game I was in. At 6:15, I told Tessa I had to stop by the office to sign off on a contractor payment. On a Friday? She said, barely looking up from her phone. Payroll deadline, I lied smoothly. Years of parenting had taught me how to lie with a clean face when the lie protected someone else's innocence. Tessa hummed. Don't be late. We have plans. Plans. She said it like she was talking to a coworker, not a husband. What plans? I asked, forcing myself to sound casual. Tessa finally looked up and I saw a flash of something on her face. Calculation, not surprise. Dinner, she said. I told you. She hadn't, but I nodded like she had. Right, I said. Dinner. Tessa's gaze lingered on me as if she was measuring whether I suspected anything. Then she smiled, small, controlled. Wear the navy jacket, she said. You look respectable in it. Respectable. Not handsome, not loved. Respectable, like a man you'd want photographed standing at a distance. Caleb was on the couch pretending to watch a game while actually scrolling his phone. Molly was drawing at the kitchen table, tongue out in concentration. Dad, Molly said without looking up, can we get dessert if you go to dinner? Maybe, I said. She grinned. Say yes. I smiled back. We'll see. I wanted to freeze this exact moment, the kids being kids, the house being a house, because I had a sinking feeling it was about to change. At 7:10, I drove into the city and parked 2 blocks from Lumiere. The air was cold enough to feel honest. The streets were bright with weekend energy, couples walking, laughter spilling out of bars, a city making noise so it didn't have to listen to itself. Lumiere sat on a corner with tall windows and soft golden light. Inside, you could see movement like a slow dance. I stood across the street for a full minute, watching people enter and leave. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. Running 5 minutes late. Don't start without me. My stomach tightened, because she was already in the building. I knew that with the kind of certainty that arrives from reading patterns too many times to ignore them. I crossed the street and walked in. The hostess stand was busy, but the hostess looked up and smiled politely. "Reservation?" she asked. "Mercer," I said. She tapped on her tablet. Her smile didn't change, but her eyes flicked over me. Quick assessment. "Of course," she said. "Right this way." She didn't ask how many. That was the first real confirmation that the reservation was real and mine. She led me toward the dining room, toward the windows, toward the kind of table you'd want in a romantic movie. And then I saw my wife. Tessa was already seated. Across from her sat a man I didn't recognize, mid-40s, dark hair, expensive watch, the kind of face that looked practiced in mirrors. He leaned forward and Tessa laughed, an actual laugh, not the polite one she used on neighbors. I felt the world narrow to a single sharp line. Then the man reached across the table, took Tessa's hand, and kissed her fingers like they were in a commercial. Tessa didn't pull away. If I had walked up right then, if I had shouted, if I had demanded explanations, the restaurant would have turned into a stage. Everyone's heads would have snapped toward us. Phones would have come out. Someone would have whispered, "Oh my God." It would have become a story. Her story. And I suddenly understood something that made my skin go cold. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't, "I got caught." This was curated. Tessa had insisted I wear the navy jacket. She wanted me to look like a certain kind of man. Respectable. Threatening, maybe. A man in a blazer showing up angry in a restaurant makes a better video than a man in a hoodie. My feet stayed planted. My face stayed neutral. My heart kept pounding, but I didn't let it climb into my voice. The hostess, still beside me, said softly, "Your table is ready." I looked at her, then back at Tessa's table. "Tessa isn't expecting me yet," I said quietly. "Can you seat me at the bar instead?" The hostess blinked. "Sir?" "Just for a moment," I said. "I'm early." A beat passed. Then she nodded, professional. "Of course." She led me to the bar without drama. I took a stool at the far end, angled so I could see the window table without being seen easily from it. The bartender asked, "What can I get you?" "Club soda," I said. He raised an eyebrow, then shrugged. "Coming up?" My phone buzzed again. "Tessa, where are you?" I stared at the text until my anger became something clearer. A trap requires a reaction. I wasn't giving her one. I typed back. "Just arrived. Waiting." I set the phone down and watched. Tessa leaned toward the man. Their heads were close. He showed her something on his phone and she nodded, biting her lip in a way she hadn't done around me in years. The man lifted his phone slightly, as if positioning it for a photo. Tessa adjusted her posture, turning her face toward the window light. She was posing. I looked around the room and noticed something I hadn't at first. A man at a nearby two-top, alone, with a baseball cap and a phone angled toward Tessa's table. Not subtle, just accidentally pointed. A camera. My jaw tightened. The club soda arrived with a lime wedge. The bartender set it down and walked away. I took a sip I didn't taste. I watched the cameraman raise the phone higher. I watched Tessa laugh again, louder this time. Then, like a director hitting a mark, she glanced toward the bar area. Her eyes flicked over the room and landed on me. Tessa's smile froze for a fraction of a second. Then it returned, brighter. She leaned toward her companion, whispered something, and stood up. Here it came. The scene. Tessa walked toward the bar with the easy confidence of a woman who believed the world would follow her script. When she reached me, her voice was loud enough for people to hear without being a shout. "Dan," she said, like my name was a surprise she was unhappy to see. "What are you doing here?" I kept my voice low. "You told me we had dinner plans." Tessa's eyes widened theatrically. I told you to stay home tonight. You can't rewrite reality unless you speak it out loud. I glanced toward her table. The man sat back, watching. Phone on the table now, cameraman still recording. Tessa leaned closer, lowering her voice slightly, like she was trying to be reasonable. You're embarrassing yourself, she murmured. Then louder again. Please don't do this here. Do this, as if I was already doing something. I looked up at her, calm. I'm sitting at the bar drinking soda. Tessa's lips tightened. You need to leave. I'll leave when I'm done, I said. The cameraman leaned forward. Tessa's companion stood, moving closer, as if he was ready to protect her. Tessa raised her hands slightly, an actor's gesture of fear. She said, loud enough for anyone within 10 feet, Please, Dan. You're scaring me. There it was. The line. The audience. The phone cameras. I felt my hands curled into fists under the bar, but my face stayed still. I'm not scaring you, I said quietly. You're performing. Tessa's eyes flashed with anger at that word. Performance. Because it named the thing she needed to keep invisible. Her voice sharpened. Leave. Now. I turned to the bartender. Can I get my check for the soda? I asked politely. The bartender looked between us, uncertain, then nodded and printed the receipt. I paid. I stood. I looked at Tessa's companion. Enjoy your dinner, I said evenly. Then I walked out. No yelling, no grabbing, no scene. I crossed the street and sat in my car, hands shaking slightly on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed immediately. Tessa. Don't follow me. I'm calling the police if you come near me again. Then another text. Tessa. You showed up to intimidate me. I have witnesses. Witnesses. There it was. The purpose. I stared at the screen and felt something settle in my chest like a heavy click. She wanted a record, a police report, a pattern, a narrative where I was the aggressor and she was the brave woman who escaped. If I reacted, she would win twice, once in the restaurant, once in the court. I drove home slowly, the city lights blurring past like a film I didn't recognize. The house was quiet when I walked in. Caleb's music was faint upstairs. Molly's laughter drifted from her room. Tessa wasn't home. I stood in the entryway for a long moment, breathing in the smell of our house. Laundry detergent, kid shampoo, the life I'd built. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again, then again. Then it stopped and a voicemail appeared. I listened. Mr. Mercer, a calm voice said. This is Officer Ruiz with the Chicago Police Department. We received a call from your wife. She reported that you followed her and threatened her at a restaurant. We'd like to speak with you. My mouth went dry. The trap had moved to the next stage. I didn't call back immediately. I sat at my kitchen table and wrote down everything that happened, minute by minute. 4:12, reservation email received. 7:10, arrived at restaurant. 7:18, sat at bar. 7:26, confrontation initiated by Tessa. 7:30, left restaurant. Facts first, always. Then I called my brother Eric, who practiced law in another state. Not family law, but close enough to understand danger. He listened quietly, then said, Dan, don't talk to police without counsel. Not because you're guilty, because you're the target of a narrative. The phrase hit like a nail. Target of a narrative. I slept maybe 2 hours that night, not because I was afraid of the police, because I was afraid of what the police report could become once it was filtered through Brooke, through Tessa, and turned into a court exhibit. At 7:05 a.m., Molly knocked on my bedroom door. Dad, she whispered, is Mom mad? I sat up, rubbing my eyes. Why do you ask? She hugged her stuffed penguin tighter. She's texting a lot, and she's stomping when she walks. I swallowed. Your mom and I are dealing with grown-up stuff, I said. But you're okay. You and your brother are okay. Molly frowned. Can we still get dessert? I almost laughed at the pure logic of childhood. Yes, I said. We can still get dessert. She nodded like the universe had been repaired and walked away. When the kids left for school, I did something that felt strange after nearly 2 decades of marriage. I wrote myself a rule list. 1. No direct conversations with Tessa without a witness or recording. 2. No arguments in shared spaces. 3. Every interaction assumes it will be quoted. 4. Keep the kids out of the crossfire. 5. Facts only. Then I called Officer Ruiz back through Vivian exactly as she instructed. Vivian put the call on speaker in her office while I sat across from her, hands folded, the way I'd sat in vendor meetings my whole adult life. Officer Ruiz, Vivian said. This is Vivian Hart, counsel for Mr. Mercer. Mr. Mercer is available to provide a statement. We also request a copy of any incident report number, and we intend to preserve surveillance footage from the location. There was a pause on the line. Ruiz sounded tired, not hostile. Ma'am, he said, we just needed to document the complaint. Ms. Mercer claims he approached her aggressively. Vivian's tone remained calm. We deny that, and we have time-stamped evidence Mr. Mercer was seated at the bar and left without physical contact. Another pause. Do you have video? Ruiz asked. We have confirmation video exists, Vivian said. We'll provide it through proper channels. Ruiz sighed. Okay, I'll note counsel contact. If Ms. Mercer pursues a protective order, that's civil. Our report is limited to the call. Understood, Vivian said. Please include in the report that Mr. Mercer cooperated and is represented. The call ended. It wasn't dramatic, no threats, no accusations. But I could feel how close I'd been to being trapped in a narrative that would have taken on a life of its own. That afternoon, Tessa's performance went public. A friend texted me a screenshot, a post on Tessa's Instagram story. A black background, white text. Some people can't handle boundaries. When you say no, they show up where they shouldn't. Protect your peace. Protect your children. No names, but enough for anyone who knew us. Then a second slide, a blurry photo of Lumiere's front door. Tonight was terrifying. I stared at it, a calm rage spreading behind my ribs. She had the footage of me walking out of a restaurant and tried to turn it into danger. Vivian's advice came back to me. Do not litigate online. So I didn't. I took screenshots, sent them to Vivian, and then muted Tessa on every platform. Not out of weakness, out of strategy. That night, Caleb asked me directly, Did you stalk Mom? He said, standing in the kitchen with his backpack half open. No, I said. He waited, eyes searching mine. Then why is she saying you did? Because she wants people to believe it, I replied. Caleb's jaw clenched. She's been posting. I know, I said, and I'm not responding. Caleb scoffed. Why not? Because the court doesn't run on likes, I said. And because if I argue with her online, you'll see it. Your sister will see it. I'm not giving you that. Caleb's anger softened into something else. Confusion. Grief. She wants everyone to hate you, he whispered. I swallowed. She wants everyone to choose her version, I said. But the truth doesn't need applause. Caleb looked away. This is messed up, he muttered, and went upstairs. Eric gave me the name of a family attorney in Chicago, Vivian Hart. Call her tonight, he said, and do not text Tessa. Everything goes through counsel now. At 11:30 p.m., Vivian Hart answered her phone like she expected calls like this at night. She didn't sound shocked when I explained. She's setting you up for a protective order, Vivian said. Restaurant incidents are perfect because there are witnesses and cameras. The question is, did you create a record of your calm? I have a receipt, I said, Time-stamped. Good, Vivian said. We need footage. We need witness statements. And we need to get ahead of this. Get ahead how? I asked. File first, Vivian said. Emergency temporary orders for custody and exclusive use of the home, and a motion to preserve evidence. If she thinks she can make you look unstable, she'll try to remove you from the house before you can react. I stared at the dark window over my sink. She's not home yet, I said. Then you have a window, Vivian replied. Use it. The next morning, Saturday, I drove back downtown at 9 a.m. when Lumiere opened for brunch prep. I didn't go in like an angry husband. I went in like a man requesting records for a dispute. The manager listened as I explained, then said carefully, "We can't release footage without a subpoena." "I understand," I said. "But can you confirm there are cameras covering the bar and the window tables?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." "And do you keep it for how long?" I asked. 30 days, he said. "Please preserve last night's footage," I said. "My attorney will send formal notice." The manager nodded slowly. "We will." I left a business card with Vivian's name and walked out. In my car, I checked my phone. 27 texts from Tessa. Most were variations on a theme. "You ruined my night. You scared me. You're out of control. I'll do whatever I have to do to protect myself." Then one text that made my blood run cold. "Caleb knows the truth. He saw you." Caleb. My son. I drove home and found him in the kitchen making coffee, still half asleep. "Hey," I said softly. "Can we talk?" Caleb looked up, eyes guarded. "Mom said you showed up and freaked out." I took a slow breath. "Did she tell you anything else?" Caleb shrugged. "She said you were stalking her." I felt the urge to defend myself in a flood of words. Instead, I asked, "What do you believe?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "I don't know," he admitted. "I wasn't there." "Exactly," I said gently. "You weren't there. So don't let anyone hand you a story and call it truth." Caleb stared at the counter. "Why were you there?" I didn't lie. "I got a reservation confirmation," I said, "for our anniversary, sent to my email. I thought your mom made it." Caleb's eyes flicked up, surprised. "She sent it to you?" "I didn't send it," I said. "Someone did." Caleb was quiet, processing. Then he said something that landed like a weight. "She's been talking about getting free for months," he muttered. "Like, she rehearses conversations, in the mirror." My throat tightened. Rehearses. Exactly. That afternoon, Tessa came home with Molly in tow, carrying shopping bags like a normal Saturday. Molly ran to me, holding up a cupcake box. "Dad, look!" I forced a smile. "Nice." Tessa didn't look at me. She walked past like I was furniture. Then in the hallway, she stopped and turned slightly. Her voice was quiet enough that only I could hear. "You can still make this easy," she said. I held her gaze. "Easy for who?" Tessa's smile was thin. "For me," she said. "If you don't fight, you get weekends." My stomach clenched. She wasn't scared. She was negotiating custody like it was a product. "You're not taking my kids with a script," I said. Tessa's eyes hardened. "We'll see," she whispered, and walked away. On Monday morning, Vivian filed emergency motions, temporary custody schedule, exclusive use of the marital home pending hearing, order to preserve and subpoena restaurant footage, order to preserve phone records. Vivian also sent a notice to CPD that I would cooperate through counsel. Officer Ruiz called Vivian that afternoon. Vivian later told me he sounded unsurprised. "Domestic calls are messy," she said. "But when someone is clearly trying to manufacture an incident, cops can sense it. The problem is, sometimes they still write the report based on whoever cries louder." Tessa cried loudly. She filed for a protective order Wednesday morning. Her affidavit described the restaurant scene as violent. She claimed I grabbed her arm. She claimed I threatened her companion. She claimed I followed her to the parking lot. Every detail was wrong. And every detail was designed to trigger the court's fear reflex. Protect the woman, remove the man. The hearing was set for Friday. Those 4 days felt like walking on thin ice while someone threw rocks from shore. Vivian prepared like a surgeon. We printed the reservation email showing it was sent to my address. We printed my bar receipt with timestamp. We subpoenaed restaurant footage and asked for an emergency preservation order. We requested the police body cam footage from the responding officer who later did a welfare check at our house, because yes, after her report, officers came by to make sure everyone was safe. I opened the door calmly, hands visible, and told them, "There is no danger here. My attorney will contact you." The officers didn't arrest me. They left. But the report existed. The narrative had a foothold. On Thursday night, Ray Palmer, the same neighbor who always noticed things, knocked on my door. He wasn't my Ray. That was another story. But this Ray was real in my life. A retired electrician who watched his street like it was his last job. "I don't want to get involved," he said, voice low. "But I think you're being set up." My pulse jumped. "Why?" He held up his phone. "My cousin works valet at that restaurant," he said. "He saw your wife with some guy. And he saw another guy filming. And," he hesitated, "he saw her check the door like she was waiting for you." I felt my stomach drop. "Can he make a statement?" Vivian asked when I called her. "Yes," I said. "Then we get him," she replied. "And we get the footage." Friday morning, the judge listened to Tessa first. Tessa wore a soft sweater and no jewelry, like she wanted to look fragile. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes were red. Her voice was trembling in the right places. She said all the lines you could hear in a courtroom every day. "He's controlling. He's unpredictable. He terrified me. He humiliated me in public. I fear for my children." Fear is persuasive. It's also easy to fake when you've practiced. Vivian stood and spoke calmly. "Your Honor," she said, "this case hinges on credibility. We have evidence that contradicts the petitioner's account." She handed the judge a binder. Tab 1. Reservation confirmation email sent to my account. Tab 2. Bar receipt showing my location and time. Tab 3. Statement from a valet employee describing an active filming participant and Ms. Mercer checking the entrance repeatedly. Tab 4. Preservation order compliance letter from the restaurant confirming they retained footage. Tab 5. Text messages from Ms. Mercer before and after the incident threatening to do what she has to do and claiming witnesses immediately. Tessa's attorney objected, tried to frame it as irrelevant. The judge's eyes narrowed. "Ms. Mercer," the judge asked, "if you were frightened, why did you approach Mr. Mercer at the bar?" Tessa blinked. I wanted him to leave." "Did you ask restaurant staff for help?" the judge asked. Tessa hesitated. "No," she admitted. The judge leaned forward. "Did you call police from the restaurant?" Tessa's lips parted, then closed. "No." "So you waited until later," the judge said, "after texting him multiple times." Tessa's eyes flashed with anger, then filled again with tears she forced to the surface. "I was in shock," she whispered. Vivian didn't argue. She just said, "We request the court order release of the restaurant footage immediately." The judge granted it. The protective order was denied pending footage review. Vivian moved fast, but Tessa moved faster because she'd been rehearsing for months. By Tuesday, a process server arrived at my office with papers, petition for dissolution, emergency motion, and the protective order request. My coworkers saw the envelope, saw my face, and politely pretended not to. In the parking lot after work, My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. A man's voice said, "Dan Mercer?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "This is Owen," the voice said. "Owen Black. I'm helping Tessa navigate a difficult situation." Helping. The word was smooth, practiced. "I don't know you," I said. "You don't need to," Owen replied. "I just want to prevent misunderstandings. Tessa is scared, Dan. She's trying to keep the kids safe." I felt my jaw tighten. "From what?" Owen chuckled lightly, like we were discussing a misunderstanding in a business deal. "From volatility," he said. Volatility. Another scripted word. "I have an attorney," I said. "Do not contact me." Owen's tone stayed friendly. "I get it, but here's the thing. Court isn't about what happened. It's about what can be proven. And Tessa has witnesses." There it was again. Witnesses. I kept my voice flat. "If you contact me again, my attorney will address it." Owen sighed theatrically. "Okay, Dan, just don't make this worse." He hung up. My hands were shaking when I put the phone down, not because I was afraid of Owen, but because I recognized the tactic. Provoke the man, then call him unstable when he reacts. I forwarded the number to Vivian immediately. Vivian's reply came back fast. "Do not speak to him again. We'll file a harassment notice." That evening, I sat with Vivian's assistant in a small room behind her office and signed a sworn statement about the call. Vivian filed a notice with the court. Third-party interference, intimidation attempt, request for no contact. Owen had just stepped onto the record, and once you're on the record, you can be questioned. On Wednesday, the restaurant footage arrived, and the tone of everything shifted. Because evidence is louder than performance when it's undeniable. Tessa's attorney asked for a continuance. Vivian refused. Friday's hearing became a credibility hearing, and Tessa's credibility was melting. But Tessa still had one more card she tried to play before the judge could take it away. She tried to make me react at home. Thursday night, at 9:15, she arrived with Owen in the driveway. Not inside the house, outside, in view of the streetlights and the neighbor windows. Owen stood with his phone held chest high, recording. Tessa walked up to the front door and rang the bell repeatedly. Molly peeked from behind the living room curtain. "Mom's here," she whispered, nervous. "Go upstairs," I said, keeping my voice gentle. "Both of you, headphones." Caleb hesitated. "Dad." "Please," I said. "Trust me." They went. I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch, leaving the threshold behind me. No accusation of blocking her, no claim she was trapped. Tessa's voice immediately rose, bright and loud. "You can't keep my children from me." Owen's phone pointed at me like a weapon. "I'm not keeping them from you," I said calmly. "There's a court schedule pending tomorrow. This isn't the time." Tessa's face twisted, frustrated that I wasn't giving her anger.
"Let me see them,"
she demanded. "We can arrange it through Vivian," I said. "Not like this." Owen spoke for the first time, voice smooth. "Dan, you're escalating. Tessa has a right to enter her home." I stared at him. "This is my home too," I said, "and you are not a party to this." Tessa took a step closer, hands raised like she was afraid. "Stop intimidating us." I held my hands out, palms open. "I'm standing on my porch," I said. "You're recording. I'm calm." The longer it went, the clearer it became. They wanted a clip, so I ended it. I said, "This conversation is over," stepped back inside and closed the door without slamming it. Then I locked it and called Vivian. Vivian's voice was sharp when she answered. "Were the kids present?" "No," I said. "They're upstairs. She's outside with Owen, filming." "Good," Vivian said. "Call police for documentation, not confrontation." So I did. When the officer arrived, Tessa's tone changed immediately, soft, trembling, victimized. The officer asked me questions.
I answered calmly, showed him the pending hearing notice, and pointed to Owen. "That man is not family," I said. "He's recording and provoking." The officer told Owen to stop recording and leave the property. Owen argued. The officer repeated himself. Owen left. Tessa stayed, eyes wide, and said quietly, "See? He's calling the police on me." The officer looked at her without sympathy. "Ma'am," he said, "this is a civil issue. You need to follow the court." Tessa's shoulders slumped. Not because she was scared, because the scene didn't land. When she drove away, I felt the same heavy click in my chest as the night at the restaurant. This wasn't a marriage ending. It was a campaign. Not a full win yet, but the lie was cracking. That afternoon, Vivian received the footage. We watched it together in her office. The camera angle showed the bar, me sitting on a stool, club soda in hand, Tessa walking up, loud and animated.
Me standing calmly, paying for the drink, leaving without touching her. No grabbing, no threatening, no stalking. Another camera angle showed the window table. Tessa and her companion laughing, then Tessa glancing toward the entrance repeatedly, waiting. Another camera caught the man with the baseball cap filming, phone angled toward the bar. A third camera caught Tessa's companion texting someone, then smiling when Tessa approached the bar. It was a production, and it was recorded. Vivian filed the footage with the court immediately. Tessa's attorney called the next morning. "He wants to settle," Vivian told me, voice flat with disbelief. Fast. By Monday, the tone had changed completely. No more fear, no more protection. Now it was miscommunication. Now it was emotional distress. Now it was, "We can co-parent peacefully." Vivian's response was simple. Not without accountability. Discovery revealed the full reason Tessa needed the narrative. Not romance, not just romance. Money. Tessa had drained a private savings account I didn't know existed, opened years earlier when she took over managing the budget. She'd also been preparing to leave with our kids to her sister's suburb an hour away. She needed the protective order to force me out of the house so she could establish primary residence for the children quickly. Courts, like gravity, often favor the status quo. If she could make the new status quo happen fast enough, she could keep it. The man at dinner wasn't a lover in the movie sense. His name was Owen Black, and he was a separation strategist, a consultant who sold women a blueprint for winning high-conflict divorces. He wasn't licensed, he was just persuasive. The baseball cap guy was his videographer. Tessa hadn't been on a date. She'd been filming content, proof of harassment, for her case and for Owen's marketing. When Vivian showed me the invoice list, I felt sick. Consulting package, $9,500. Incident capture, $2,200. Court narrative coaching, $3,000. My life had been priced like a bundle. Caleb found out in the worst way. He overheard Tessa on the phone with Owen saying, "If the judge sees him as aggressive, we're done. He'll be out. I'll keep the house and the kids." Caleb came to me that night, face pale. "She's using us," he whispered. I sat with him in the living room, the lights low, the house quiet except for Molly's music upstairs. "She's trying to," I said gently. "But she doesn't get to decide who you are, or who I am, or what our family becomes." Caleb's voice cracked. "I don't want to live with her if she lies like that." I didn't celebrate his words. I didn't weaponize them. I said, "You don't have to choose tonight. You just have to be honest with your therapist and the court, if asked." Caleb nodded, swallowing hard, the way kids do when they are trying to be adults too early. Molly sensed the tension without understanding it. She drew pictures of our family with extra-large smiles, as if she could draw happiness into existence. I taped them to the fridge anyway. Because kids deserve evidence that you're still here. The final hearing happened in late summer. By then, the case was no longer about a restaurant. It was about credibility. The judge referenced the footage directly. "Ms. Mercer," he said, The court does not tolerate fabricated allegations used to gain advantage. The evidence shows this incident was orchestrated. Tessa stared straight ahead, jaw tight, eyes dry. The judge issued orders. Shared legal custody. Primary residence split by school year schedule with clear parenting time. A prohibition on either parent making public allegations about the other. A requirement that exchanges occur without third parties present. And, most satisfying in a quiet way, a written finding that the protective order request was not supported by evidence and was contradicted by video. Tessa didn't cry on the courthouse steps this time. No cameras, no audience. Owen Black was nowhere to be found. Consultants vanish when invoices stop. Afterward, Tessa approached me in the hallway, alone. She looked tired. Real tired, not performative tired. "I didn't think you'd get the footage," she said flatly. There it was again. Not remorse, a failed calculation. I looked at her and said, "You didn't think the truth would be recorded?" Tessa's eyes flashed. "You ruined my chance to start over." "You ruined our marriage when you tried to make me a villain," I replied. She turned away. The first Thanksgiving after the divorce, Caleb and Molly stayed with me. We didn't go downtown, we didn't do fancy windows or perfect lighting. We cooked at home. Caleb made the turkey too salty and tried to pretend it was intentional. Molly made sweet potatoes with so many marshmallows it looked like a science project. We laughed, not because everything was fine, because we were safe. Later that night, Caleb sat at the kitchen island and said quietly, "You know what the scariest part was?" "What?" I asked. He stared at the counter, voice low. "How close she came. If you'd yelled, if you'd grabbed her arm, if you'd done anything on camera, you'd have been done." I nodded. "That's why I didn't," I said. Caleb shook his head, amazed. "You didn't even want revenge." I thought about that for a moment. "I wanted the truth," I said. "And I wanted you and Molly to have a father who wasn't edited into a monster." Molly wandered in half asleep, hair wild. "Are we talking about monsters?" she mumbled. Caleb smiled. "No, kid. We're talking about cameras." Molly yawned. "Cameras are creepy." "Sometimes," I said. "Sometimes they're the only honest thing in the room." I cleaned the kitchen while the kids drifted back to bed. The house was quiet. Not empty, not lonely. Quiet in a way that felt like relief. A restaurant reservation almost became the moment that cost me my children. But the thing about traps is this. They only work if you fight inside them. Tessa wanted me loud. She wanted me angry. She wanted me to become the clip she could show a judge and say, "See?" I refused. And in refusing, I learned a hard truth about modern betrayal. Some people don't just leave. They try to leave with a story that makes them the hero. I didn't stop her from leaving. I just refused to play the villain. End.